It says, do you like gumballs? Anyhow, my name's Chris Byrne. It's nice to meet you all. This is I guess I'm in my second year of board membership. Is it third? Second? Oh my goodness, it's going so fast. Beginning is a third year, thank you. And I am a full professor at the Aurora University School of Social Work, and I also do some contracting for DCFS and the Kane County Sheriff's Office, and I serve on the Illinois Children's Mental Health Partnership and on the Council on Social Work Education Board of Accreditation. So I'm glad to meet all the new members.
My name is Ray Lapinath. I've been with the Mental Health Board for around 10 years now. I did step down for one term because I was working with the Epilepsy Foundation, which was a funded agency, and you can't be a board member of a funded agency. Currently, I'm the executive director of Neurobalance Center in Barrington, an organization that helps people with neurodegenerative diseases. I actually was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2017. And this is a great group of people to work with, and welcome.
I'm Melanie Duran. I'm the Fiscal Operations Officer here. And if you have any questions about finances, feel free to reach out to me.
Want me to speak loudly and in the microphone? We're going to give it up to Bridget. She's doing two people's jobs. I'm Lindsay Keisman. I have been on the Mental Health Board for 2 years, same time as Christina, and board treasurer, so I think I know a decent amount, but I'll never beat Melanie. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My day job, I own a mental health private practice, and I am a consultant, and I travel around conferences doing public speaking as well, and have been connected to this community in roles as funded agencies throughout the years, and got my opportunity to be a part of this, and it's been great. So welcome.
And we've met. I'm Leonetta Rizzi, the Executive Director of the McHenry County Mental Health Board. Been here for 3 years. And again, please reach out. I know we're going to be meeting more often for further onboarding, but please reach out at any time. I know the two of you aren't officially on the Finance Committee, but it's really encouraged for you to attend all the committees that, that you can, but you're not obligated to come to these committee meetings that you're not on. But thank you for being here. Yeah, it won't go on record on the video.
Okay. Anyway, I've been on the board 22 years, I guess. I've seen many changes. And I am a retired social worker from District 200 in Woodstock, but I have a small private practice, and I substitute teach. So this week I substituted in first grade. So I'm pretty busy. But anyway, anytime you have a question, anything, feel free to call. And everybody's got our numbers, so feel free to call.
Hi, thanks, everyone. I'm John Reinert. I was on the county board. Now I'm their liaison for your board. And I have been here, a resident in McHenry County for many, many years and a long time. Volunteer for Little City of Palatine and also Camp Algonquin when I was a little kid. My parents and grandparents volunteered there. Just a little byline. I'm a home builder and a real estate guy. So thank you, and I look forward to working with y'all.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move on. I need an approval of the minutes for September 16th, 2024 Finance and Audit meeting. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, minutes approved. We'll move on to the treasurer's report. 4A, finance report for the period ending November 30th, version 2. Melanie?
So I hate to say it, version 3 will be out next month, so just quick update, some outstanding items we have. There still needs to be a payroll adjustment for the year-end payroll accrual. Should be around $34,800. We also still have December through February installments of sales tax revenue that is not reflected here. And receivable will be needed for year-end reconciliations. I'm estimating right now about $22,000 will be recouped back from agencies for unspent funds. That's not final yet, but it will be by the end of the month. On the, let me show you what I'm looking at. Right now, I'm showing a balance, a fund balance at year-end of $8.3 million. We're probably going to be adding another $3.7 million to that when we get all the remaining things wrapped up. I'm sorry, it will be, 3.7 instead of the 1.294. So not quite 3.7. We got to back out that 1.2. Sorry, I don't have that number with me right now. But let's just say next month that will be changing by a few $1 million. Excuse me. The next page is the admin expenses. I don't really have anything to point out unless somebody has a question. But like I said, all expenses have been paid for 94 except for that payroll accrual that we need to move. So that's pretty much it for admin expenses except for that $34.8 or $34,870 that'll still be added in there. The next page is our revenue expense report. One thing I did want to point out is that for sales tax revenue, the December payment is not in this page. For some reason, the county has posted the December payment to fiscal year 25. I'm working with them to get that resolved, but hopefully we'll have that fixed by next month for both December and January. So we're short about $800,000 there for revenue. Then as far as payments to agencies, all payments have been processed and are reflected here. A few of them, I think 3 agencies will have payback, so those amounts will be reduced. But for the most part, everything has been paid and is reflected here. Does anybody have any questions from looking at the fee-for-service report? Because
I have one
don't really have
question.
much to point out, but we do have, final balances there. Yeah.
It's back on our budget, administrative. Just explain to me the overtime, why we are 262% over. I don't understand that. 13,000 was budgeted.
Oh, that is actually holiday pay.
That's what?
That's holiday pay.
Oh, holiday, okay. Say no more.
Yeah,
Okay.
county does it weird how they project holiday pay. They don't project enough. And then what they'll do is like the year-end accrual. So part of that's got holiday pay in it. We have 3 holidays in November. And they won't back out the holiday from the accrual, so it adds to,
Okay,
it just throws things off.
all right, that answers
But
it.
yeah, we don't have any overtime.
Well, that's what I thought,
Yeah.
and we're looking at this 262% overtime.
Yeah, no, that's holiday pay, so.
Okay.
So like I said, none of these numbers are final. We will have another version 3 next month. And hopefully that will be the last one. Just depends on when they post the final February disbursement.
Could you
Yeah.
explain for our new board members why we end up with multiple versions and it takes us a while to get finalized numbers?
Okay, it's basically timing. So our year end is November 30th, but we pay our agencies a month behind in their services, so the final payments don't get posted until December. And then we also have revenue also coming in. And basically, the rule of thumb is 60 days after your year end, you can still post expenses and revenues. And so that's kind of what's happening. Plus, we have year-end adjustments for accruals and of receivables. So it's just a matter of wrapping things up. But we'll go back in and restate everything and show you how it's changed since the last month. So,
Carolyn?
I kind of didn't really touch on that. I just asked if anybody had any questions. Oh, yeah, if you have any questions, yeah.
Do you know, are those pretty much going to be their ending percentages, or do you know how much is going to come back, or is it going to be that like remaining column?
So the remaining column is money that didn't go out.
So is that going to be the final numbers for the year, or are there
There's still, I think, 3 agencies right now I'm showing have money due back. I have like a couple more. I'm still wrapping up the review of their reconciliation. But right now I do have 3 agencies where we're going to be reducing the amount, and there'll be more in that remaining column. But right now it's like about $22,000. So other than that, this is pretty much going to be it.
So we'll have, and is that, that's basically what we were going to use from the fund balance, right? So we don't have to use as much from the fund balance.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So the next page we're looking at is the opioid settlement funds. This is the last version you're going to see. This one is all wrapped up, so that's good news. And as you can see, if you kind of look down here at the bottom, just like the fee-for-service report, we're also showing on this report, how much more we got in revenue versus what we spent. And we spent what we budgeted, except for $227. But we did get more revenue than we expected. So we actually added $507,168 to the fund balance for this. So right now we have $1,063,057 about available in opioid funds that can be used going forward. Any questions on the opioid funds for '24?
And do we end up putting that new directions capital into this, or is it still going to be taken out? Or is that 2020?
That's 25. Yeah. So that's all I have for '24. Like I said, we will be restating at least the levy funds next month. So the next thing we have is our balance sheet for '25. 5, the first one for December. And this will also be restated because we don't have the final fund balance, and that rolls forward into 24, or 25, sorry. And plus, we'll have that payroll accrual. So you will see this again. But basically, looking at looking at this one, you can still see that we're understating our fund balance because we don't have that extra revenue in there. Sure.
Where it says the deferred inflows of resources, that sales tax, that 10 million,
Mhm.
why is that put there?
Why is that put there?
Yeah, because we didn't receive that.
Right. It's, if you look up above, there's a receivable and then a deferred inflow. It's just basically our way of tracking it. You have to have one to balance the other. So your deferred inflow is money you expect, and your receivable is the money you expect. It kind of, they balance each other off. They're like a balancing mechanism. So it will reduce as we receive the money. Does that make sense? Yeah, the contra account, exactly. So as we receive the money, both of those balances will go down.
Be transferred down.
Yeah, it'll go into cash and into the year over under.
So you were working on the budget?
Yeah, that's the amount from the budget. That's what we expect to be getting this year. Hopefully we will. So the only really thing I have to comment on the expense, or the admin expense report, is that you see the salary right there. That's actually the salary accrual that needs to go back into 24. The other salary for December has not been posted yet. And then you can see high amounts for insurance premiums. We pay our insurance annually, so that's why we get hit, big in December. So those are pretty much where they're going to be for the rest of the year. And then the computer software support of the 7959 is the renewal for our fondant software. And then did anybody have any other questions about any admin expenses? No? Okay, not much to report on the revenue expense report here. Like I said, they posted the December installment as 25 revenue, so that $800,250 there does not relate to 25. That'll need to be moved to 24. So we are working on that. And then you can see, since we do delay payment, that, agencies work for us in December but get paid for December and January, you don't really see any activity right now for the funded agencies. So that'll change next month. And also, since we don't have any activity for the funded agencies, we do not do a fee for service report in December because it really doesn't tell us anything. So that's all I have for the December finance reports. If anybody had any questions. Go for it.
On the transportation line,
Yes.
I thought we reduced that a little bit, did we not?
For the Kaizen,
For Kaizen? Because they didn't use all that.
we reduced it from 140 to 90. So yeah, we did reduce it. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we can talk about that too going forward, because I know with the county, with their new MC ride,
Mm-hmm.
and,
I know it was brought up at the committee of the whole that we should look into combining transportation.
yeah, so I guess I didn't realize it was, because it was 100 before. But I was just looking at the one, this one that we're not.
The December 24 one. We started at 140 and we actually moved budget to cover other client services. So that's why we're getting that 140 in our head, right? Yeah.
I looked at it, what it was last
Uh-huh.
year's budget, and I compared it, I'm like, wait, it didn't really change. And I thought
Yeah.
it changed it, so that's why.
Right, we changed it both during the year last year and in the budget this year, so.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can continue to revisit that one with the development of.
And that, Kaizen really has been fluctuating lately. We had a lot of agencies abusing it, and Leo had conversations with them, and we were seeing it's gone down. So it's much more realistic. We're averaging about 5,000 a month. So, I mean, we're probably not going to spend this 90,000 either, so, but yeah.
I think too, like, I mean, transportation in general, I know we've had a lot of conversations. I've had it with some of the providers too, because they provide their own, and just like kind of centralizing transportation just would be such a good thing to do, like from the
Right.
county, and, you know, if we could maybe continue conversations with the county on that too, that would be great, appreciated in the area. With the, so the county-wide, like what was the diary, but now they do like, the county actually invests a couple $1 million of county money, and John, you probably speak to it, you were probably on it when you guys approved the program. But it's, you can use like Uber now, and anyone can call up and get a ride, and, they subsidize like your Uber ride. So. You just have to apply. Yeah, we provided the board with information. I know, I just had a call before we started this meeting, so we need to know. Oh, yeah, definitely get the information. It's great, and it's, yeah, it's very, and it's the whole county, so it's not just restricted to Berkeley Cruise or anything. And the county's investing, so like it's already county dollars that are being spent, so, I don't know, if you want to elaborate further, but, it's a great program.
Bridget, can you turn Chris's mic on?
Thanks. Yeah, so it is new, right? And it's called MC Ride Connect. So, but the people to be eligible for it, they have to have an RTA reduced fare transit card. And to get that is actually kind of time consuming, and for people with disabilities requires a doctor's, it actually is kind of difficult to get that, and it is fairly time consuming. It requires a fair degree of like resources to put that thing together. And then you pay $4 for the trip, which actually for some people they can't afford to pay $4 for the trip. People have been on social media like, I can't pay $4 for this trip. So that even though, you know, for some folks, $4 seems like a really affordable fee, it's not the case for everybody, and not everybody can get the RTA reduced transit card. So, you know, there's like a whole, you know, there's a whole website on like transportation in McHenry County, and then, you know, so I think that definitely, like Carolyn's saying, collaborating with, you know, the county and other kinds of entities within the county organizing toward more effective transportation planning is a good idea. I don't necessarily know that this is a solved problem now, and I definitely think it's worth watching the Kaizen use and trying to see how that evolves.
And we have promoted McBride to the Network Council and everyone.
And Christina's right, I mean, it's challenging, I know, but Scott Hennings is very willing to help navigate. I know I do a program that I volunteer with, and he was willing to come in and train, like, if you can get a group of people in, he'll train you how to, apply for the RTA, and, you know, they're even willing to help walk people through it. So it's maybe just an opportunity for us to partner with them and really, and even if it's where we wanted to supplement the $4, you know, that we could possibly do, which would cut our costs down to then just $4 a ride instead of, you know, $25 a ride or whatever. It just, opportunities I think are there that, you know, maybe for the minute.
Sometimes people need to have a section on that.
Yeah, actually, that would be.
Well, because a lot of people don't know about that kind of thing.
I'm guessing RTA will probably be there with their cards, so they usually are there to help people navigate through that at least.
there any additional questions on 4A, B, C, and D? All right, seeing none, and there is no old business for discussion. Moving on to new business. Before we get into 6A, I wanted to share that Leo, Mel, and I met with county administrators and finance person. There was a lot of discussion at some of the finance committee meetings and other meetings at the county in the late fall about what had happened with our sales tax and in what ways the county could collaborate with us. And so we had planned a meeting that happened. And the goal of the meeting was to collaborate as much as possible on what options were. So there are things that were brought up both on our behalf and the county board as well, such as looking at our police social work programs and our judicial court programs, things that are connected to them, other opportunities that either one of us saw, and then their financial person had put together a very kind of concise financial model of our fund balance utilization and their estimates of what they saw our sales tax being and what that could look like. And we did have some conversations around if our board ever wanted to do or wanted to support the county board in another sales tax referendum increasing, what would be the timeline that they would need for that? Because there are some logistics that would have to occur for the county board to do that, and there's some benefits of which, if you're going to put it on a primary or not on a primary. So we did a little bit of forecasting with that, and I believe it was 2026, Leo? 2026 is when they felt they would need that information. And the template that was given to us, what we discussed is that for county board members, it is helpful for them to have concise information on our spending. So this behind me is what they came up with. And the numbers, there were some minor inaccuracies that we, when we did meet with them, and we talked about how Melanie could work with them to give them accurate numbers and that we could present this to not only public health, but the finance committee at the county as well. And to explain as a mental health board what our approach will be to managing our fund balance, meeting the needs of those that we serve and the agencies and the people that they serve, and to keep in good communication. So we discussed utilizing this and providing accurate information as we get it. So it's sort of a working document for multiple years, if that makes sense. And it was a good meeting as far as just discussing collaborations that could occur. I will tell you that any decisions that we make regarding programs that could come under the county, they would like as much time as possible. And, you know, if we're going to make a decision on that, I had explained to them that it was the purpose of this finance committee to meet sort of heavily in the beginning of this year to try to make a more targeted approach and a way that we're going to look at the next couple of years of spending to balance meeting the needs, our fund balance, and the fact that the sales tax did not come in the way that everybody had anticipated. So with that, we're still going to have the public health reports that Leo does, and we discussed us coming back to their finance committee somewhere in April-ish, and hopefully utilizing this and sharing back information from our discussion so that the county board members could understand where we're at. Leo, do you want to add anything to that summary, or?
No, I think that was great. I think that's a great summary. I think it'll be the work of this committee to, ensure that, we get proper projections in place. And, Mel and I will do our best to populate this grid so that it's more realistic. We sent back a revised version to them immediately, just showing them what we thought, but we wanted to spend more time on it. And our revised version showed us, being at risk much sooner than this version. So we will make sure that, as we're putting in more accurate numbers for the future, that we build this together.
You have to press your button. Press your button.
I'm just asking, is there any way the state would look at increasing the sales tax that we would get it on vehicles? I know it's not in the law now, but is there any way we could ask that we get tax on the vehicles like the RTA?
Yeah, we're looking at different ways through legislation. We are looking at legislation at this point.
Good.
County board members are also looking at it. That was a topic of discussion at the COW,
Oh, good.
that they're looking into, changing the legislation to include the sales tax on vehicles and
That would be
other
great.
changes, yeah.
Yeah.
John, did you have yours?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say now this is what the county turned into us, and you had another one that you sent back to them right away?
Yes.
Yeah. But this
What
is,
does yours look like?
it was a little different. I mean, again, we just did it real quickly based on changing some things in 2026.
Of what you project, right?
Right. Of what we
Yes.
projected. So that's what we'll be working on, and that's what we'll be showing this committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to digest what you think that you're going to be needing versus what the county thinks that you'll be projected to have.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, because that would be.
Yeah,
right?
and that's what
Yeah.
we want to bring up to the county board, too,
Yeah.
is more of our projections, so that it's a little bit more accurate. We think this model is a good way to show it, so we'll make sure that we update this.
There were some just assumptions made. I mean, this was a rough draft template made by, the county finance person. And so I think we'll have the correct template, immediately, essentially. And a lot of it really depends on decisions that we all make as a board and as finance committee, coming together and deciding what approach we want to take. As Linda and John may not know, but, I know John knows, we had very little time last year to digest a budget change. We had under a week. And so now that we know things are different, we're hoping to be a little bit more prepared with an approach instead of what happened to us last year. But yes, this was a model template, whatever you want to kind of use it, that they had brought up, and it's easily digestible. Even the color coding, there's some decisions that we have to make also in regards to our fund balance. Currently, we, keep a 5-month fund balance. There was discussion from the county, seemed like some recommendations from their admin and finance committee chairperson to reevaluate our fund balance minimums, which is a discussion at some point for us to have as well. And that could potentially change the way this all looks as well, because it would bring, more dollars into our budget. Anything else you would add, Leo or Mel? I know Mel was on a call for that.
No, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Carolyn.
Anticipate, did you figure out a process yet by which we're going to kind of have those discussions?
We're starting right now. You mean a process for it,
I
or?
guess it would be maybe, like some type of, are we going to include it into our workshop that we're having, or are we going to talk about that at all, or kind of with the board? So I guess I'm looking at, like, at the county, like, they'll have, like, kind of that initial discussion, like a policy discussion, like, what do we want it to look like? And I think especially, like, the things like the fund balance and changing, I mean, those are like
Correct.
policy decisions that we need to be made. So, like, is there a timeline at which we're going to have that, or process by which we're going to follow?
So the fund balance in particular, at least with staff discussions, there's a lot of, we're uncomfortable making decisions around a fund balance, not having a full year of information to make something like a policy change. And when you look at the numbers, it's not quite relevant for us to make that decision within this next 12 months because it becomes more applicable as we actually kind of eat into our fund balance where we would come up with that additional money. So we had had some discussions with staff, and that's up to us to decide that, revisiting that policy would seem to make sense potentially closer to the end of this year. And so tabling that particular topic was something that we had discussed. And then as far as the goals about looking at it, we had talked about modeling out sort of a very conservative use of fund balance dollars, a moderate use of fund balance dollars, and an aggressive use of fund balance dollars. And I had asked staff to kind of showcase what that might look like for us so that we could understand the implications around that.
And actually, this is a great way to do that. I mean, you can say 2% is conservative, right? 2% increase in client services a year is conservative. What if we decided 5%?
This template is interactive, so the formulas are set up in it. So we can, and, we just agreed that using their template would make the most sense
Right.
so that we're all on the same page.
So if we use a less conservative 5% increase in client services every year, I mean, we've jumped a whole year closer for the red. So, I mean, we can kind of,
But to answer your question, we had talked about having a day, a segment during Board Development Day on that agenda for some of this work. And then the other work would be done through the Finance Committee. That's why, Lindsay wants to meet monthly in the beginning, so that
Yep, one more time.
Yeah, and if we could include in those conversations, like, kind of make, like, overall. Actually, to be honest, I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not working very well.
I don't know, mine's just not, for some reason. But just including it, not just a moving of like that percentage, but kind of more of a holistic approach on, I guess I was looking at maybe the whole allocations and really starting
Yeah.
those conversations a lot earlier this year. On what that process will look like and, maybe how we would kind of navigate through that process instead of just, I just feel like sometimes we're still not quite there. And I'm not sure that, we're getting there and we're a lot further along now, I think, than, that we're putting some of these formalities in place. But I still think there was a little bit of ambiguity in our last allocation cycle that maybe we could tighten it up a little bit and having that a few months beforehand so we know then how the allocations would come forward and how discussions might take place and where they might take place. Still think there's some room for that. Like, I still think we were maybe like over on some, maybe under on others, and trying to find a sweet spot still. I don't know. I'd like a forum that we have that conversation, and I don't know that we have any like that. And sooner rather than later.
I think it's a great discussion for our board development day, as far as the entire allocation process, because everybody is included in that. The way that each person prepares is, I think, unique, and I think it's a good discussion there. I'm hoping the goal of our finance committee is to be able to understand the implications of spending conservatively, moderately, or aggressively, and some discussions around capital, how, if we will do those things, some discussions around programs that have alternative funding options, such as, the social work program and the 22nd judicial program. And I have asked, like I said, when we talked with the county, I have asked for kind of a collaborative conversation around where some of our programs do overlap. We have some opportunities for overlap even with the county health department, for example, the housing, there's opportunities where, 1 + 1 could equal, 10 if we worked collaboratively together and potentially serve more and, use our budget wisely. So hopefully those conversations sort of were just at the beginning stages. And like I said, the the tricky part of all of this is that whether it's the county or us, we don't have perfect data at this point. And the more months that come in, the more accurate data we'll get on our sales tax. And, you know, with the legislation that could occur on a state-based level, all of a sudden we could see a big increase, but we could not see a big increase. So it's really up to us to decide what we're going to do, what our approach is, and I look at that as a multi-year conversation that we should all be having and aligning with, because at some point, you know, if we spend in a certain way, it might even out as sales tax increases. If we spend slightly more aggressively, we may have a year where we're saying no to a whole lot of people and we're cutting and reducing services. There's also some discussions we've had with staff about just the need to maintain our current services, things like the cost of living increasing for our funded agencies and how some of them have not gotten those. And a look at our different programs that haven't been yielding the results that we want, which I think speaks a little bit to what you were talking about, Carolyn, is maybe taking a little bit closer eye that if we did have to make some cuts, maybe we would have had some earlier conversations of where those cuts might make the most sense. Not that that's what we want to do, but I think we would all benefit from more group conversation opportunities for staff to, you know, educate us and the funded agencies. So the kind of information that we need and which programs we might want better information from ahead of time, I think would be very relevant. Also, I think any additional information that we want during the application process is all up for discussion, at least for me, and I hope that's part of Board Development Day. Any other comments? Well, I'll close at this. What information would you find helpful beyond what we have here as far as the percentages and approach would you want staff to present to us in a future Finance Committee meeting? Chris?
So this is my first day on this committee, and because I was moved here for a different committee, so I'm really intent on, getting up to speed. There are probably some things that are sort of assumed knowledge that may, not have been explicitly addressed in other contexts. And so things like, why do we own this building? And do we want to continue to own this building? Because I was on, building and grounds, and we're talking about a roof and a parking lot and doors and bathrooms and carpet and accessibility and unrented space. And, I don't know if this is really kind of like financially advantageous for us to continue to pay for snow removal and things of that nature. Maybe that's known, maybe this is just me being kind of naive to the process. And things like, our fund balance, is it invested? How is it invested? Do we earn interest on it? What are our options for things like that? So I think there's some maybe opportunity for development, potentially with a new, configuration that might be helpful.
Absolutely. Good, Connie?
I think capital, too. I mean, I don't see anything with capital like what you're saying. There's some of the things. Sorry. Come on, go off. Sorry. I don't see anything for capital there, and we know that we have to do some capital improvements. And I think that we should look at, when we're talking about investing some money, I mean, we may want to take some of it, not use all of our, fund balance. Maybe those are things that I would like to see up there, too.
Yeah. We can certainly revisit. Last year, we talked a lot about investments. And just to answer some simple questions, our basic checking account actually yields a fairly good rate of return, which things are moving and changing and shaking out. But part of the staff decision when we didn't move forward with investing with the county treasurer was A, because we didn't know what was going on with sales tax, and B, currently, is it pushing 5%? 5?
It's like 4.6% now.
Yeah, so it was lingering around 5%, which was just in our normal accessible checking account, and we weren't looking at massive rates of return unless we were going to get all that money from the initial sales tax projection. But yeah. Here's our- Chris, we're looking for creative ways to solve this problem. So even looking at the building is a worthy discussion and something that we could potentially work with staff to look at what that change would look like. There's no, as far as I'm concerned, there's no idea that we shouldn't consider. And we don't always have to do things the way we've always done them. So I think this is the time that I'm hoping we would bring some of that creative energy. So I think it's a great thing that you're here and you're brand new to our committee, and Linda and anybody else who wants to join, because I think we're going to have to think creatively to do what is our mission and vision, which is to serve the community as best as we can, and that takes dollars and cents no matter how it shakes out. Is there anything that you wanted to add to kind of orient people to this a little bit more?
If anybody wants this, I can send you a copy, then you can kind of play with the numbers. So it basically works off of the 25 budget numbers, and the percentages on the side are basically how much it's changing every year. So like the sales tax is going up 3.5% every year, the personnel is going up 3% every year, non-personnel, they're taking 1% off every year, and then client services are adding 2% every year using this where it's currently set up. So it does run off, like I said, that 25 column, which is our current budget year. The 24 is our, well, it's not quite final expenses, but it's pretty close to projecting what our final will be. So you can kind of see that we're starting off with a $10.8 million fund balance, and we're basically spending it down. This particular spreadsheet uses a 3-month fund balance. So as you can see, as we use the fund balance, it goes down until eventually we get into the red, where we've got less than 3 months of fund balance remaining. And that's pretty much it. I don't know, does anybody have any questions about how this works, or?
Press your button, Connie.
How did they come up with what we would have left in fund balance? Like 10,000, 8,000, 7,000? I'm just curious, how did they come up with that figure?
That's basically a calculation showing how many months of fund balance we have. So as it travels, it changes each year by the amount of expenses. So they take the total expenses budgeted, divide it by 12, then figure out how many months is left in the fund balance.
That's not 10,000, it's 10 million.
I didn't hear you, Ray.
It's 10 million.
Not 10,000, it's 10 million.
Right. Right.
Yes. Linda?
I don't understand how the fund balance is set. I know county has 5 months, and I know you guys have had 5 months traditionally. I went to a county meeting where they said 3 months is all you needed. I don't know how that, came out of the air.
I can kind of explain that.
How that discussion
Okay.
happens,
Right.
how that can be changed.
So the 5 months is based on property taxes. You do not get your first installment of property taxes until June. So you basically need to cover your first 5 months. You have to have cash on hand for that. With the property taxes, we've got monthly revenue.
Sales tax.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sales tax. With sales tax, we're getting monthly disbursements. It changes by month, but usually it's pretty close. The difference there is we have a 3-month lag where the first 3 months of the sales tax is actually for the prior year. So I think that's where they're getting the 3-month from. But it's basically how much cash on hand you need before you're going to get where you get more cash. So.
I understood what it was. I just didn't know what they were basing the
Yeah.
numbers on and how they're making a decision of what's a reasonable reserve. That's a very, it's a big issue for households as well as.
Right. Well, I mean, we're going to be spending like 200,000 more every month than we're bringing in. So that's also a deciding factor in how many, months we need to keep, so.
This is part of the reason why it feels a little challenging to make a policy decision. And to answer your question, it is a policy, so our board would have to, vote on changing this policy. And we're hoping to have a better understanding of how much working capital we would really want. But once again, that's a little dependent on how much we're spending and how quickly we're going to spend it down, because it wouldn't make sense to change it to 3 and then 2 years from now say, oh, wait, now we're going to change it back. It would make more sense for us to think about that in terms of a couple of years and a more permanent policy relating to the sales tax. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I heard, and moving forward, and we're going to have our board development day, and then in the finance committee, I think it would be helpful to kind of target specific topics, such as how do we handle our building, capital expenses that we would take on, looking at the programs that we want to take a closer eye at, right? So having kind of staff and all of us look at some of those programs that come back year to year that could be different if they needed to. I think an additional thing I wanted to share is there's been some discussion on our administrative budget and looking into that, but there's also some planning that was discussed as far as succession planning for Leo and a deputy, director position. So there's decisions that impact our admin budget as well that come into play. And so I'd like to look at our admin budget and see if there are any opportunities in there as well. I know we did that in the last round, but I think that's another category. So what I'd like to do for these meetings is sort of target our discussions around specific topics so that they don't get too tangential, because it's a pretty big thing to cover. So if more, kind of topics come to mind, I'd love for those to get sent my way or to Leo or to Mel so that we can organize the agendas for our finance committee meetings. And hopefully, we'll have even more information after board development day. Is there anything else anybody would like to add to make kind of this process easier, smoother, more efficient? Chris?
I don't know if this is a reasonable thing, but, in the issue of how much fund balance do we retain, is it reasonable to look at what other mental health boards are also doing in terms of decision-making around this issue? Because to Carolyn's point, it's relevant to us saying, all right, well, if we're not going to allow it to go below this value, that has implications for what we're going to be willing to allocate to programs within the year, and then we don't arrive at these funding decision points deciding to kind of break open the piggy bank, because we've already determined ahead of time what it is that we've, are committed to allocating. So, I was wondering if we could gather more information about that.
Yeah. Great. One of the things I had asked for the fund balance too, and I'm not sure, if we talked about this last time, but I had asked Melanie some questions about how many times we needed in an emergency to really dip into our fund balance in the last 10 years, and, the answer was none. There were some pretty big emergencies, whether COVID or certain buildings or agencies, going out of business, and, it was an important question to know how much money do we want to have in reserves for a true emergency that would occur in our community. And the answer was the money was always able to be moved around within that year in a way that didn't go above and beyond the budget we had already allocated. Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion on the financial forecast model and fund balance utilization and budget discussion? Correct. This was kind of an introduction to the template, setting a more robust agenda for why I've asked for this committee to meet monthly, so that we could give better information out to the county, and so that we could be better prepared going into our decisions. As a reminder, the applications happen in the summer, so even simple things like if we want different information, we need to make those decisions rather rapidly.
I would just like to request Melanie if we could read that template.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could forward that to all of us, that would be great. Yeah, Chris?
Maybe, maybe it's kind of a Leo question. Maybe you can kind of remind us about the cycle of needs assessment data collection and organization, because if we're going to ask for applications in the summer, I don't know, how that aligns with the potential for gathering additional information on community needs in order to make some determinations about priorities in advance of that occurring. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you want to answer that?
Question correctly. We still continue to follow with our strategic plan. So that's really where the priority needs are. And we'll be addressing that also in the board development day to look at what the priorities for this next year are. So we do that every year, board development day, and that kind of sets off the priorities for the year that then we look at for the funding allocations as well.
Do we still do the Healthy Community Survey? Do we still do, as a county, the Healthy Community Survey?
Yes, we're still involved with
Okay,
that.
'cause that's
And
all-
that feeds into our strategic plan. So it all feeds in together.
Any further discussion? Okay. If not, our next regular meeting is Tuesday, February 18th, and I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Ray and Carolyn. All right. All in favor? Aye. All right. We are adjourned.